Hello, everyone. My name is Kimberly Knight. I am the Director of Caregiver Support Program at the Senior Source, and we are delighted that you are here today to join us. Before I get started, I just want to say thank you to our supporters. The North Central Texas COG Area Agency on Aging and the Texas Health and Human Services is a supporter of this program. Also, another supporter we have with us today is Caregiver SOS WellMed Charitable Foundation. And we have with us Tina Smith, who I'm going to invite to say a few words before we start.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Kimberly. As Kimberly said, my name is Tina Smith, and I am the Director of Caregiver Program Operations with the the Caregiver SOS program through the WellMed Charitable Foundation. And we, like the Senior Source, we provide information and support to family members who are caring for an older loved one, because we know that the job that you're doing is so important and so valued, but can be pretty tough. So we want to make sure that you have the tools that you need to keep on caring for your loved one. And so we appreciate the opportunity to sponsor with the Senior Source on this great event. As I said, we know that caregiving can be a big job at times and can get pretty heavy. And so that's why we wanted today to kind of maybe look at a different perspective, or maybe you see the positive aspects from day to day, but maybe having more of a solid foundation on that. So again, thank you for all that you do. And thank you very much for being here. We think that you're really going to enjoy and get a lot out from the wonderful speakers we have today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina. So again, welcome and to Caregiver Refresh, New Year, New Tools, New Perspective. My name is Kimberly Knight. I'm the Director of the Caregiver Support Program here at the Senior Source. And today we have with us, who's going to be our moderator, Katie Flores. So I'm going to turn it over to Katie, and we are going to get the presentation underway.
Thank you, Kimberly. Hopefully you've all seen in the chat, I placed a document that if you have time, or if you haven't yet printed, you can do so real quickly before our first presentation. If not, just feel free to take notes as we go. And then also, we do have 2 Senior Source team members monitoring the chat. If you have general questions throughout today, feel free to plop them in there. And Terry Contreras and Jane Hunley are our team members who will be monitoring and answering any questions. And then after each presenter today, if you have specific questions for them, we'll have a few minutes after each presenter for you to address them with specific questions. So I want to go ahead and introduce our first presenter, Loretta Vinnie. We're so excited to have Loretta today. She's an inspirational speaker who has delivered more than 300 speeches and presentations on dementia and caregiving since 2014, offering a wealth of information, encouragement, and humor to her audiences. Loretta is the author of Being My Mom's Mom, Refreshment for the Caregiver Spirit, and Colors Flowing from My Mind. In 2006, after her beloved mother Doris was diagnosed with dementia, Loretta began learning everything she could about the disease, becoming a fierce advocate for her mom in the process. Loretta and her mom have been featured in articles in the Wall Street Journal, Psychology Today, the Washington Post, the New York Times, AARP Caregiver Stories, as well as a PBS special. In 2019, Loretta was selected as Trailblazer of the Year by Johns Hopkins Medicine. In November 2021, Loretta and her mom were featured in episode 6 of season 4 of Robin Roberts' Thriver Thursday series. So with that, Loretta, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours.
Let's see. And I think you can see the slides, can you?
Yes, looks great.
All right, that is absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. What a joy it is to be with you all today. And I really want to thank Kimberly Knight of Senior Source for inviting me to be here with you this morning as we talk about building joyful caregiver experiences with humility, hope, and humor. See, all right, now, how many of you, after a particularly bad caregiving day, have ever thought to yourself, that's it, I give up. I cannot do this anymore. Well, trust me, If you feel that way, you are not alone. There are millions of caregivers in the United States, and I'm sure every one of us have wanted to give up at least once, and some of us have felt that way more than once a day. So I believe that to have the best caregiving experience possible, caregivers need strategies that they can build upon to care for both their loved ones, patients, residents, and themselves. So my goal is to give you tools for those challenging days to move your mindset from I give up to I've got this. I want to introduce everybody to my mom, Doris. She was diagnosed with dementia in 2006, so almost 16 years ago. And for the first 3 or 4 years of caregiving, she was pretty stable, thankfully, and she loved her exercise classes. You can see her doing Tai Chi there. But I struggled my way through caregiving with just a lot of luck, trying to just take it day by day. And then in 2009, when it just became so painful to watch my mom struggle with her disease, I knew we needed some joy to counteract the pain of watching someone you love or care for slowly disappear right before your eyes. And I knew a little something about joy helping to overcome pain in my own life, because for 13 years, between 1988 and 2001, I was hospitalized more than 30 times, and I had 21 operations. And many people in my family, including my mom, weren't sure I would survive. But as you can clearly see, with a lot of joy, I did survive. So why do I believe so strongly that joy is a necessary component of caregiving? Well, honestly, because pain can kill you, especially when caregiving is a long-term commitment. Now, for me, anything I do that's going to be long-term is going to need to have some joy. So even though I hate dementia with every single fiber of my being, I began looking for ways to bring mom some joy every day. I believe that I had my health challenges early in life, so I would be well prepared for caregiving later in my life. And then in 2016, I got the best help ever with my joy strategy. When I read the best-selling book called The Book of Joy by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, may he rest in peace with his death last month, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And as Oprah would say, it was a real aha moment for me. So the book was the result of a 2015 retreat that the two spiritual leaders took together. And their task was to explore how joy could be transformed from this fleeting feeling we had every now and then into a lasting way of being. And they found that the way we can heal our own pain is by turning to the pain of others. They called it the Virtuous Cycle. And it works like this. The more we turn towards others, the more joy we experience. And the more joy we experience, the more joy we can bring to others. Now, that sounded absolutely perfect to me when it came to caregiving, because I knew I had already used joy to help me heal from my own years of illness by spreading joy to fellow patients like myself and all the medical staff who were taking care of me. And for several years, I even had my own room in the hospital, and they would all yell, "Loretta's back," whenever I would arrive for another stay. And to this day, I am still in touch with some of the people who helped to save my life. And they all say they remember how much joy I brought to the hospital in spite of being in so much pain myself. So I began to develop my strategy of bringing joy to the caregiving experiences using what I call the 3 H's every day. The 3 H's start with humility, and I believe that's the connector between the other two components of hope and humor. And this trifecta of humility, hope, and humor, man, it has gotten me through many tough caregiving days. And if you're looking at those H's and you're asking yourself, why are those H's in Lego bricks? Well, do I have an answer for you? I am what they call an AFOL. It stands for an adult fan of Lego. I basically spent hours building with Lego bricks with my mom as a kid, and I just never outgrew the hobby. I am always building something, especially concepts that connect to each other. I post lots of my Lego builds on social media that have motivational sayings for caregivers like the one you see in the picture. Caregiving can bend us in all kinds of ways, but it will not break us. So some of you may have noticed, and Katie put the handout in the chat, but don't worry if it is not there and you can't see it or access it. Don't worry, it is not that important. You can just use a piece of paper, take a few notes, as Katie mentioned, so don't worry about that at all. But if you had the handout, and you can, as you look on the screen, you will see that there are two columns. The first is titled Values, and the second, Joyful Practices. So we have a short abbreviated version of the session today, but as we go through the 3 H's, you're going to be building a list with both your, personal values that drive your daily decisions and some joyful practices that are going to go along with each of the H's. I also want you to think about 2 tips. Excuse me, 1 second. These tips are really going to be so helpful along your journey. First, I have the best tip ever, which is to set up the day for success for the people or the persons that you're caring for with a daily success plan. Now, that's not in the presentation, but I hope as we go through, you'll be able to create one when we get to the end. I also want you to think about how you can make yourself known for how you love and care for others. So I think these 2 tips will help you design your own caregiving success plan that you'll be able to use every day. So let's get started. You start with humility, the connector of the trifecta. And everyone loves this picture of us from Christmas 2021. And it's just perfect for humility. I call her my Wonder Woman, and I gave her a Wonder Woman blanket for Mother's Day. And then I followed that up on Christmas with the stocking, the socks, and the coffee mug. So she had a great day that day. Well, what's humility anyway? So here's the dictionary definition. It's defined as freedom from pride or arrogance, not thinking that we are better than anyone else. And humility for me, though, is caring for others without making them feel like a burden. Humility is absolutely my #1 personal value. And I learned humility from my mom at a really early age. She would tell us not to boast about our accomplishments or the things we had, and to always think of and help other people before ourselves. So when I was a little kid, one example is my mom used to take us for ice cream once a month. And I always, like any kid, look forward to that ice cream day. So one day when I was about 4 years old, we went to get ice cream, and there was another little girl, she was getting ice cream too. And after we each got our treats, we were standing on the corner, waiting for the light to change. And all of a sudden, the other little girl's cone fell to the ground. And without a thought, I handed her my ice cream cone. And the 2 mothers looked at each other in shock. So when my mom offered to return to the store to get me another cone, I said the other little girls seemed to need the ice cream more than me, and I would wait until next month. Now, in truth, I don't remember that story, not one little bit. However, my mother told that story to anybody that would listen. So the joyful practice that goes along with that story for me is being kind to others. Humility is so important in caregiving because we are caring for people during some of the most vulnerable and challenging times of their lives. There is definite joy in humility, but some days you have to think about how it comes into play. Now I want to introduce you to my best example of humility and caregiving. She's my mom's primary caregiver. Her name is Janet, and she is at the group home where my mom has lived since 2018. Now, mom never, ever wanted to live with her kids, so she made us sign a document holding us to that promise. So I chose a group home for her, hoping it would be more like a family environment. And that turned out really great. So everything that Janet does for the resident, it just oozes with humility. And so she has a success plan for my mom and other residents every single day. So for example, after mom had several seizures, Janet's determination of walking with her every day, as you can see in the picture on the top left, that paid off in a huge way. And it allowed mom to walk once again unassisted by the end of 2020, which you see at the top right picture. And then I always try to show our gratitude for her hard work by giving Janet thank you gifts throughout the years. You can see from her thank you balloon that she has there in that picture. And one of the things that her success plan is based on is her value of determination to help each resident have the best day possible, every single day, including doing video chats with us during the second lockdown from this photo that I took last week. Janet's determination is really just etched on her face. And so my joyful practice with Mom on humility, it focuses on encouraging her and praising her when she has completed a task that was hard for her to do. So I want you to think back to when you were a kid and your loved ones encouraged you. Remember how great that felt? So as caregivers, we have so many opportunities to encourage those that we are caring for. My greatest joyful practice with Mom is my level of patience. I never yelled at her or scolded her for saying the same things over and over or doing something inappropriate, like taking all her clothes off, which used to be a thing for her. And so when I used to take Mom out to Walmart or the doctor's office, people would always say, wow, you are so patient with your mom. But my comment was always, well, she's my mom. She has earned every ounce of my patience. So I'm also having to be really patient right now as COVID has interrupted our visits once again. So the photo that you're looking at is from the last day we had before the lockdown. So my other top values for humility are respect and self-respect. I give respect to my mom, and I expect everybody else that we encounter to keep a daily eye on what's happening at the group home and all that, so nothing goes wrong. I also use my self-respect to treat others the way I want to be treated. So here, if you have a list in front of you or your piece of paper, you can add what personal values that you had that are humility related and how you use those in your caregiving responsibilities. And then you can also add some practices, some joyful practices that you are already using or that you want to start using after today. And feel free to put them in the chat as well. And maybe when we get to the questions, we'll have time to look at those. So our next H is hope. And it can just produce so much caregiving joy. We can receive hope from other people and we can give hope as well. So this photo of Mom and her best friend was taken on Mom's 90th birthday in 2019. These two, they have been friends, best friends since kindergarten. And they just honestly give me so much hope. Years ago, Mom used to smile at me and say, "You give me hope." And that was just worth more than $1 million to me. And even though she can only say, very few words now, that smile she has still gives me hope. So, caregiving, as you know, can take a toll on our mind, our body, and our soul. But there is always at least one thing that can bring us hope. Now, one of the things that usually leads to that I give up mindset that I mentioned at the beginning is the feeling of being alone. So great hope can be found in the fact that we as caregivers, we aren't alone at all. I love this picture from my book, Refreshment for the Caregiver Spirit. My husband took this picture on our trip to Switzerland. Now the mountains in this picture is, they're just gorgeous, but the mountains that are in our lives, they can just feel so overwhelming sometimes. But if we have a village, to support us and help us along the way, it confirms we are not alone. Do you all remember that game show from a long time ago called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? It was a contest where people could phone a friend, their lifeline, that could help them win $1 million. I love that show. And today, I find great hope in my lifelines, the folks in my life who listen to me and give me hope. And Chris is my best friend of 30 years, and she is my primary lifeline. So years ago, for example, when I used to say, I need my lifeline, she would even hide from her kids in the bathroom when they were little so we could have an uninterrupted conversation. So using your lifelines brings you hope and reinforces for you that you aren't alone. So one of Chris's greatest gestures to me happened during the 99-day lockdown when I couldn't see my mom. And I was just miserable, absolutely miserable. And I shared that with her and she listened to me cry and supported me, during that heartbreaking time. A couple of weeks later, after that conversation, I received the best gift ever. And as soon as I opened it, I knew it was from Chris. There were two photos and the photo pillars in the box, one for me and one for Mom. And we could hug it whenever we were missing each other. So Janet opened the door and called Mom over so I could see Mom getting her pillow. And Mom hugged it and she looks at the pillow and she says, "That's me." Well, she didn't even mention I'm on the pillow too. I'm still trying to get over that, but okay. But it was still the best reaction ever. And if we can serve as, lifelines for people, it lets them know they aren't alone at all. I serve as lifeline for lots of people. People will call me or email me and say, I need my dose of Loretta, and I give it to them. And it is a wonderful feeling to be a lifeline. Now, when you think about caregivers and Alzheimer's websites with all these information and online support groups, they have all lifted me up time and time again. And I hope they can lift you up too. So as part of my own daily success plan, I build in time during most days to visit my favorite sites and provide suggestions and, get, information for myself too. This one's one of my favorite, the AARP Family Caregivers Discussion Group. And you can put anything you want to put there and nobody will judge you. I love that. And, it's just a place to really release things. And so 2 pieces of great tips I have used so successfully are find one ray of hope that can get you through the day or your shift, and wherever you work and whatever you do, if you're a family caregiver, share one piece of hope every day with the person you're caring for, because that really lifts them up as well. And here are 2 other really great websites. If you have not been on the website for Senior Source, please do. And then there's a caregiver stress one. These are just 2 examples of the hundreds and hundreds of support groups and informational sites that will give you so much hope that you can always reach out to. And so I've tried to do my best to give the caregivers hope for sure. And one of the ways I did that was I gave all of my mother's stimulus checks during the pandemic to the caregivers because they deserved it. They spent all that time locked in to, the group home with my mom. And I wanted to, address their needs while they were caring for, my family. So I hope that they, were so, you found that so useful, and I know they really appreciated. Most of them, cried, and it was just a wonderful thing. And I think the greatest thing that I try to do, my joyful practice, is to make all of the caregivers smile and make me smile too. Now, a critical part of hope and humility and part of being intentional with our plans are, sharing strategies that you find at work. Because, if you find something that works for lots of people, spread it around. My favorite thing to say is share what works. Don't keep it to yourself. It's one of my favorite slogans. And one of the best examples of this happened in the group home with this woman, retired lieutenant colonel. She gave all the caregivers fits. She cursed them out, threw stuff, threw food, yelled, screamed, everything. And nobody wanted to deal with her. Finally, a 17-year-old from high school who was doing her community service, she came in and solved the whole problem. She would watch on her phone AMC movies with the lieutenant colonel, and she never once threw anything at this young kid. And so the caregivers who had more than 20 years of experience, they were so jealous of this little girl and the success that she had with the lieutenant colonel. And so as I was watching them, hate on this girl, I was like, don't hate her for doing something that y'all couldn't do. So I suggested that they sit down and plan how they were going to have success with the lieutenant colonel. So they began to work together, and some of them watched movies for her, and they came up with other activities even when the 17-year-old wasn't there. So their ability to sit and plan together for whatever the day was going to be, it really improved their caregiving success tenfold. Their unity and teamwork, it absolutely became something to see. And it gave them hope that they could survive and have success with her. And so my greatest value for hope, is my optimism. I knew they could work that situation out with the lieutenant colonel. And since my mom's diagnosis, all of my optimism is focused on her. And I'll give you a couple examples why. In 2018, she escaped from her first group home, and I got her back from a Facebook post. Now, who knew you could get your mama back on Facebook? And then in 2019, she escaped from her current group home, got up the street, fell in the ditch, and didn't break a thing. There she is laying in the hospital, looking all healthy. And then probably the worst thing for us is, in March of this year, I was told she was in liver failure and had days to live. And let me just say, that was 10 months ago. So clearly she did not get the memo that she was dying, but I'm thrilled, of course, to, have my mom still here with me. And I'm so, happy with my optimism and how much, joy and hope that's given us. And some people are really surprised about my optimism because I'm the only one left with mom. My sister, who's in the green shirt there with my niece, She got MS when she was 57 and she died after 4 years in 2011. And then the picture on the right, my husband who's standing there with me and mom, he did so much for my mom. And then he died very suddenly in 2016 while we were on vacation in New York. And the weirdest of all coincidences was that the two of them died on the same day, July 17th, 5 years apart. But I know, as sad as I am, that neither of them would hear. They would be so proud of all that I have accomplished since they've been gone. And one of the things that give me so much hope is the caregivers, because they have, done so much joyful practices there, like giving the residents makeovers, as you can see in the picture on the left, and then celebrating birthdays and holidays with the residents, and they don't even know holidays exist anymore. And all through COVID, they have just been smiling, and it's just been amazing. And so, they began to work together using the strengths of all their individual values. And so their unity and their partnership with me has made for many more successful caregiving days than bad days. So I hope you can take away something from that too, with maybe groups of people or your family members who can pull together and find, great hope in what you have. So I hope you have lots of ideas flowing through your mind right now. And like I said, we don't have a lot of time, but I hope that you can add to your list even when we're done. So we have one last component now that we finished with hope, and that is humor. So let me just make one thing really clear before we start. Nothing is funny about diseases. However, the situations that can result from them, though, especially when it comes to dementia, they can be absolutely hysterical. And the picture that you're looking at on the screen will illustrate exactly what I mean. You can see we're taking a selfie. And, as mom's looking into the camera, she says, "How did we get into that box?" Oh my gosh, I hit the floor for that one. I mean, she's just, hysterical. And I always stress, we're laughing at the situation and certainly not at the person we're caring for. But I have to say, humor has saved me more times than I can count. And humor can be so healing. And it can bring you lots of joy just when you need it most. So even if your caregiver responsibilities have gone on for years, like mine, humor can be part of the entire journey. And I think that's something really important for us to think about. Here's mom with one of her favorite activities in the Spanish club. And that's kind of a funny story about when she was in the Spanish club and the New York Times photographer asked her to identify all the people in the picture. And she named them all except for the boy in the back. And she swore she didn't know the boy in the back. And that's what I call selective dementia, because she knew that boy in the back of the picture on the second row there. She knew him for at least a minute because that boy is my father. And so it just cracks up some of the things she chose not to remember. And then I think, you look at this coloring book that Katie mentioned, the funniest story I think that happened for us there is, we were having a great outdoor visit during the lockdown, and I had put both our pictures on the back of the book because mom helped me pick out the pictures. And, she sees our pictures on the back. She says, "What are you doing on the back of my book?" I'm like, "Girl, you wouldn't even have a picture, a book at all if it wasn't for me." And I just think that's hysterical though. And so I think when we think about those things, all of these things are hysterically funny. And the photographers from the New York Times and the Washington Post both came to see, mom and her wonderful Lego bricks and all the things that we have built together. And as my husband is there observing us. And, it 100%, represents the creativity that I found in being able to communicate with my mom, which is how we ended up on Robin Roberts Thriver Thursday in the first place. So, and to enhance my creativity, I became a trained facilitator in something called Lego Serious Plays. And not only did I play with my mom, I played with lots of other folks in adult daycare facilities and memory care facilities as well. And you can't really see that clearly from the pictures, but lots of smiles on their faces. So I hope you can come up with the activities that will help the folks you care for as well. Now, we just have to change as our loved ones, change too. So mom can't build as much as she used to be able to. So I made her some Lego puzzles instead. And so you can see she's having a ball. She's smiling and everything, putting them together. So, sometimes we just have to alter what we do. So the AARP named me the entertainment director because I was always looking for engaging things for us to do. And I think, you look at the very quick trip we've done through the 3 H's, I hope you have lots of things to kind of take away. So I want to just, leave you with this. I hope that you'll be able to push through any, negativity that, you have when it appears, and then say really loud, I got this, as you think of the, the 3 H's. So they won't provide, they'll provide opportunities for you to have a lot of joy, but they won't fix all your caregiving challenges. We know that, but I believe they will certainly allow you to build some joy into your day. So I leave you with this closing thought. The first time you change an adult's diaper, it humbles you, and it reminds us all that we've come full circle. Somebody changed our diaper when we couldn't change it for ourselves, and now we're doing that for others as they get near the end of their lives. We get up each day because we have hope that today will be better than yesterday, and that there'll be at least one moment of joy for us. And our hope keeps us going when we use our lifelines to confirm we aren't alone. And we need to laugh out loud at least once a day so that we can anticipate what may help us laugh tomorrow. So I hope as you continue to build a list and your success plan, that it'll remind you of some of the things that we covered today. So I hope you keep your good ideas coming. And as you start to build your daily success plan and your joyful practices over the next 30 days or so, I hope, you'll look at your list if your caregiving day isn't going according to your plan. But I have the utmost confidence that you can do it. So go forth, my friends, and I hope you build yourself many years of joyful caregiving experiences with humility, hope, and humor. So thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Loretta. That was so inspiring, and I think gives us all a lot of hope and positivity moving forward. And we do have a few minutes, guys. If you want to ask some specific questions to Loretta, now is a great time to do that. And you can do that by adding your questions to the chat, and we'll let her know what you'd like to know about.
Yay! And I'll pull up the chat too. So I had practiced that so I could do it in the
Oh, good.
Like, okay,
also, just so you all know, you may not have seen this in the chat, but we are going to be sharing everything at the end of today via our website. I'll add a link to the chat so you can see Loretta's slides and notes and all of that.
Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate it.
Was it helpful for you personally when you are having, what is helpful for you personally when you are having a hard caregiving day?
Yeah, I use those. That's a great question. I use the websites that I talked about. I phoned a friend, and in COVID, you couldn't, go to dinner and all those other kind of places. So we did a lot of, just like we're doing now, Zoom, so we could laugh. I do a lot of Lego classes with folks. And so it's been, really useful to do all of those things. Sometimes I just walk away. My mom's in a really tough spot, at the moment now. She's to the point where she can't swallow by herself. So today's a really tough day. So just to be honest, I'm using this presentation to really lift myself up. She's definitely getting to the end. I've talked to hospice twice today already, but I know that my mom, would want me to be here today and spending this with you. So you come up with whatever strategies I think work for you. And I see Marge Sutton's comment about the empty chart. So the reason why you don't have the filled in one is that because what works for me may not work for you. So my hope is that you'll build your own chart, and that's why it was empty. So I hope that helps. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Anything Lots of great compliments.
Oh, you are so awesome. Much. I appreciate it. The Legos, yeah, I tell you, that really did help us, like I said, get on the Robin Roberts thing. I mean, people were stunned that, when my mom had that blank stare, the Legos, because we had been using it for so many years, that was the thing that keeps us communicating. Other than that, she probably wouldn't say any words. And so for the last 7 years, that's been our lifeline, the Lego bricks. And it is stunning because when the New York Times guy came, she never acknowledged he was in the room or anything. But as soon as I got the Legos out, she comes back to life. And then she acknowledged that he was in the room with us. So people think I make that up. And she can't really do that, nearly as much now. But for years, that carried us. So I hope in your lives, those you care for, you can find some activity that will keep them engaged and be able to continue conversations with them as well.
This is a good question. I'm sure a lot of people have. How do you deal with no family support system? My sibling and cousins don't help.
Yeah, and I'm sort of in that space, in a way, and had been for a while after, it's been 5.5 years since my husband's been gone. So you build your own support system. One of the most amazing things that happened was my church started a support group just for me, because my husband Tim did so much for Mom, and they asked me to write down all the things that Tim did for my mother, and each one of those people that volunteered to be in my support group took a task. So a lot of times when people don't help us because we haven't asked for what we need and want. So don't say, because when people say, oh, let me know if you need something, and then you never hear from them. But that's because, and they're thinking, oh, that she didn't say anything, she must be okay. Well, you have to ask specifically for what you need and want. Can you take Mom to the, get her hair done, or to the dentist at 10 a.m. on Tuesday? They either say yes or no. If they say no, you go to the next person. So that's what happens. A lot of times we don't ask for what we need. Don't say, I need some help. Y'all help me. Well, what you need? And so that starts a lot of sibling thing. Be very specific about what you need and want. If people say no, then you go to the next person. So I've gotten so much from that group and other groups that I belong to that I don't know where I'd be without them. So
yeah, that's great practical advice. I think that holds true to so many times in our lives when we need support. A lot of people want to help, but they don't know how. And if we just say, yeah, but being specific. So true. Yeah.
Great. I'm glad that helped. It really helped me out of a lot of situations, I have to say. Oh, thank you very much, Jane, for your comment. Oh, that's so cool. I love the comments. I really appreciate y'all. And I think, as you build these plans, I mean, even though my mom doesn't live with me, I have a daily success plan every day. Number one on my list today was to talk to hospice about, a swallowing issue. And so they have a very specific medicine. My mother got really choked yesterday, almost left us. And so now she can't be left alone eating or drinking. And that's very new as of yesterday. So the hospice woman called me first thing this morning. I was very specific. I had to have it before 11:30. She called at 10 and explained the medicine and what it was going to do. And so that was first on my success plan. So if you, just like a to-do list, just check it off as you go. And that's one of the best pieces of advice I can give you, because if you follow your plan, it was a very difficult conversation, but if you have everything on your list, when you get emotional, you don't forget what's on the list. And so I followed the plan just like I needed to do when I got up this morning to be able to do that.
Okay, here's another one. This person says, I'm not sure how to phrase this, but this is a proactive approach to each day. But there are a lot of things you must react to. How do you maintain yourself through those reactive, bad news days?
Yeah, now that is a good question, because that kind of was my day yesterday. Right. So it's freezing here in DC, but I put my coat and hat on and I walked around the block just to take some deep breaths. And that was, pretty difficult. It takes 20 minutes to go around my block, and I set in my mind what questions I needed to ask the hospice woman, some very specific, very difficult questions. And I did all that. And so that's always been my go-to. I have a gym right behind us here that has a treadmill and all that, but I needed to get outside and let the cold air hit my face kind of thing. So I think we come up with different strategies to do that. And I also try, this is going to sound crazy, but it is true. I also try to not overreact or underreact to anything. I try to stay the same. And I know that's hard, but the reason why I say that is over these 16 years, I'd have been dead by now myself if I got really way up here excited, like when she escaped. She was gone for a couple hours, the police were called, all that stuff. And I try not to go off and curse people out and all that. Somebody turned their head for a minute and she was gone. It could happen to anybody. So I try to stay at the same level all the time so nothing overwhelms me and knocks me to the floor. And that's
great. Really, we just have one more comment. It kind of goes back to the one you were just speaking to, but one attendee is my husband, who I'm caregiving. He's always angry with me. I get angry back. I need to calm myself. I don't know how to calm myself.
I put my email in the chat, and I would say email me, because one of the things I do, I have a set of apps on my phone that save me. I probably should have my glasses on. This is my caregiving screen, and there's some relaxation things in there. I have calm.
Oh, that's great.
Which is exactly like it says. It's calm. You play, you push the little button, relax melodies. just take some deep breaths, count. I know 100 doesn't always work. Count to 200. I've counted many times, but I go right to my caregiver apps. And when I say they calm you down instantly, I have adult coloring on here. I pick a pretty picture and fill it in. Look at that. And so, I mean, just because my phone is always in my hand, I go to the phone in a minute. I look at a picture that when I was walking around the block just to keep from crying, I pulled up one of my favorite pictures of me and my mom, and that just made me burst out laughing and, you know, got me refocused on what I needed to do. So I hope that helps. Sometimes you just have to walk away. That
definitely helps.
From him. And the apps are wonderful. Just Google, you know, caregiving, and then Google, you know, relaxation or meditation. There are a zillion caregiving apps that can help. You know, that task I was saying to assign people to do things, there's an app, there's several apps where you can put people's names in if they volunteer to, you know, shovel the snow or whatever, go to the grocery store for you or whatever it is. And those apps will assign the different tasks that you need done. Kind of like a GoFundMe account, you know, people put their name on and say what they're going to give. It works the same way. I'll come over and shovel the snow, or I'll pick up what you need. I'll get the prescription. I'll get this, I'll get that. It really does work. Build your own team.
Great. Thank you so much. Kimberly, we do have just 2 more quick questions. Do you want to, we're right at time. Do you want to go ahead?
And my email's in there too, if you want, if anybody wants to email me, it's lwvinnie@lorettavinnie.com if you didn't get that. And they're gonna, I think they'll resend it too. So please feel free to reach out to me. I return every email and every question or comment I get. So I will definitely get back to you.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I'll have a great rest of the conference. Take care. All right. Bye.
Bye. All right. Just a couple of quick notes, if it's all right, Kimberly, before I move on to introduce you. I did notice, and this is probably because I messed up on the link, but I noticed a few attendees logged in as me, Katie Flores. If you happen to notice that, I mean, don't worry about it, but if you do, and you can hover over your name where it says more, you can click on rename and add your name there instead of mine. That way we'll know that you were here, because we want to make sure to acknowledge all of you. And then before I introduce our next presenter, Kimberly Knight, I wanted to let you know that as Kimberly is doing her presentation, I'm going to be popping up some poll questions throughout. And if you can just take just a quick second to answer those, so we can just get to know you guys a little bit better and know what your situation is. Same thing is going to happen with the chat. If you have general questions, feel free to add those into the chat, and we'll handle those for you. And then at the end, we'll have a few minutes for specific questions for Kimberly. So let me introduce my good friend and colleague, Kimberly Knight. She is a skilled master social worker with more than 15 years of experience. Her work in the nonprofit sector has provided her with robust background in program development, curriculum development, program management, community outreach, as well as individual and group counseling. Kimberly is the director of the Caregiver Support Program at the Senior Source. So Kimberly, it's all yours.
Good morning. First of all, I have to unmute myself. I was about to talk and realized I was still muted. Good morning, everyone. As Katie said, I am Kimberly Knight, the Director of Caregiver Support Programs here at the Senior Source, and I am delighted to be here with you all today. Before we get started in our presentation, I just want to ask you guys a couple of questions. Katie's getting ready to pop up 2 different poll questions. I want to get a feel for who's in our audience today. The presentation that I'm going to give, it's really geared specifically towards first-time caregivers, but also for caregivers who've been on the journey. It would be a refresher, just a reminder of some things and tips, because sometimes, you know, as we are in the caregiving journey, we get overwhelmed and we have a tendency to forget a few things. So if you guys would be so kind to answer the questions that pop up on your screen, that would be great. And I'll pause for that.
I'll probably stop it right at 1 minute. So here we go.
Okay.
Let me see if I can share the results for you.
All right, so good deal. Most of the people here today are family caregivers, or you're caregiving as a professional and a family member, or just a professional. So Katie, you'll pop up the second poll question. All right, great. So it looks like the majority of the people joining us today are family caregivers that are experienced, and that's completely awesome. Whether you are a first-time caregiver or you have been on this journey for a while, we want to just make sure that you feel confident and good about your role as a caregiver. And so we're here today to answer those questions for you and to maybe give you some new tools in your toolbox, or help you to think about caregiving from a different perspective. So when we talk about caregivers, I want to kind of give a little definition to the word, because we define caregivers as anyone who's taking care of a dependent adult. That could be a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a really good friend, but it's someone who needs your help. And so as we're talking about this topic today, we're going to touch on 5 areas. We're going to touch on about learning, include, organize, build, and care for self. And these are the building blocks that we feel are essential to the caregiving journey. So when we talk about learn, we want you and we encourage you to learn as much information as possible about the individual who needs your care and support. As a caregiver, the more information you have, the better decisions you can make on the behalf of the person that you're caring for, or you can help them to make the best informed decisions for themselves with the information you may have gathered to share with them. This is why it's so important in our caregiver role, and just in families in general, for us to have the talk with our loved ones. And when I say the talk, it is just simply finding out what is your loved one's caregiving plan, whether it is for them to age at home, or to have it go into an assisted living facility, or just any type of long-term care facility. But what is their plan? And even more so, outside of what the plan is, you know, what are the financial resources to help make that plan a reality? Part of your role as a caregiver will be to help them put their plan in place if they don't have a plan. Oftentimes, many people don't have a plan. So sometimes we have to talk to them and just kind of see where they're at with it. Have they thought about it? You know, what are some of the steps they need to take to maybe put the plan in place or bring those things to life? The more information you can gather as a caregiver, the easier it will be to share with them the available resources and give them the information they need in order to make these decisions. So when we talk about, you know, information that we also need to gather as a caregiver, you know, medical conditions and their prognosis, knowing exactly what's going on with their medical condition. What's the diagnosis? What medications are they on? Who are their doctors? How often are they having to go to any type of treatment or medical appointments? What's their level of function? These are all essential questions as caregivers, and especially as first-time caregivers, you need to begin to gather this type of information, because it's very essential as a caregiver to know this, to be able to make sure they get to these appointments on time and to know what their medications are, just to be able to be the best support to them as they're going through their medical conditions. Also, knowing their level of function is essential, because This is really the indicator to let you know if they're able to continue to live at home independently. Their activities of daily living, their IADLs also are all indicators to help you as a caregiver determine if this person is able to age in place by themselves, and at what point do we need to involve some more help, whether that's from you being more present in the home to help them with their activities of their daily living, or if there's home help that you have to bring in to help with these things. So when we talk about activities of daily living, it's their ability to walk or go to the restroom, bathe and groom themselves. Are they able to manage their medications on their own? If they're able to still handle their financial things with, paying their bills on time. If you go and you see a lot of unopened mail or things are getting cut off, those are probably clear indicators that they are at a place where they're needing more assistance, someone to be there with them to help manage these activities of daily living for them at this point. In addition to monitoring their activities of daily living, we also want to monitor their cognitive status. So the reality is we can all be forgetful at times. And when we say these things, we're talking about not just forgetting, but we're talking about something much larger than that. So if you've noticed changes in maybe their ability to hold conversations, maybe they're starting to repeat themselves, their ability to make what we would say good judgment or sound judgment, maybe changes in their behavior or mood, you want to ask yourself these questions. Is this different than in the past? Are they showing some signs of decline that are much different than before? And, this holiday season, many of us were able to go home for the first time in a while, and maybe we're around parents in person or other loved ones that we hadn't seen in a while. And so we might have noticed these things, that we saw some big declines in their cognitive abilities. And so these are the things that we're looking for. Another big thing is their safety being impacted by these things. If they are no longer able to really drive a motor vehicle safely, then that's something we definitely want to get out in front of as a caregiver and make decisions to keep this person safe, and not only them safe, but others that might be on the road as well. So the next building block we want to talk about is include. When it comes to caregiving, you want to include the care recipient, meaning you want to include your loved one in this decision-making process that affects them whenever possible. So as long as that person still has the ability to have input in their care plan, you want to include them. No one likes to feel like they have no say-so in their life. And, so you want to hear from them. You want to bring the questions to them. You want to talk about, the different aspects of aging, from home health care providers that are going to be coming into their home, to just plans for the future. You want to include them in everything that as soon as possible and with their consent. So also as a caregiver, the next building block will be to organize. The more you organize yourself, the more it takes away from your stress as a caregiver. Katie, will you go ahead and pop up the poll question, just asking them about their stress level as caregivers?
Yes. While I'm doing that, Kimberly, your notes are showing, just FYI. I don't know if you want to show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I may have to stop share altogether. Thank you for that.
And we are at about 10 minutes, just FYI.
Okay. I'm going to go back to sharing. Do you still see them?
Nope, that looks great.
All right, thank you so much. So in addition to that, we want to, as a caregiver, when you're feeling overwhelmed, the more organized that you can be with anything that you're doing. Like Loretta just was talking about, any of the pre-planning that you can do, it helps to reduce your stress level because you can kind of anticipate all of those needs and different things that may come up in the day, different tasks, you know. So if you're going to the doctor's, have a doctor's appointment, you can plan ahead the time that you need to leave home, anything that may be needed on that trip, all of those things, list of medications that you may need to take with you, any signs of changes in their abilities to function or cognitive things that you might have noticed. You want to take all of these notes and just be organized so that when you go to the doctor, it reduces the level of stress because we can't always rely on our own memories to remember every single thing as a caregiver because we have so many different things coming at us. And so the more we plan and prepare for those visits, then the easier our day can go, and we will just have a little bit less stress in our day. So some of the things that we want to begin to organize, we have a checklist here. So there's medical information. You want to have, like I said, a list of your loved one's medical history, a list of contact information for all medical providers, including dentists, the pharmacy that they typically go to, information about your loved one's estate, list of bank accounts, credit unions, passwords. But of course, you know, you will need to have power of attorney for these things first. But you want to make sure that you have a list of all of those pertinent financial questions as well, because as their caregiver, you will also probably be in charge of helping them to make these decisions or making these decisions on their behalf when they are no longer able to do so. Also, you want to have documents, their birth certificates, and any of those other important papers that we all need from time to time when it comes to our medical care. So this also is just another list of those just very important documents that you need. In addition to that, I'm just going to touch a little bit on if your loved one has dementia, and you know, you don't want to put, and if they do, you don't want to put getting their legal affairs in order as soon as possible, while they still have the ability to give consent. As you know, with the different types of dementia, as time goes on, they lose the ability with their short-term memory and eventually their long-term memory. And so while they're able to give consent and say that they want you to handle their medical affairs or their financial affairs by giving you power of attorney or medical power of attorney, you want to do that soon as possible, because if you allow that window to pass by and you don't get these things done, it becomes very difficult, almost impossible to get that paperwork signed and you honored as their power of attorney. And there's nothing more devastating to a family to not be able to make these types of decisions for their loved ones. All right. Next essential building block is to build your network of resources that will help you provide the best care. So when we're talking about our network of resources, I want us to think outside the box a little bit. You know, we think about our family, but there are other people in our lives that may be willing to be a part of our support network. So that could be our neighbors, our friends, even our faith community that are willing to come in and help us provide care to our loved one. And that's where it goes back to you as a caregiver being organized. The more organized you are, you can have a list of maybe tasks that you need help with, and then you can go to your support network and ask people to come in and help you with different tasks to make your day a little smoother. Also, as caregivers, sometimes just by creating this list and being organized, it helps us to maybe do the thing that we struggle with the most, and that's ask for help. And so some of those things that we need, meal services provided, transportation, and maybe sometimes even recreation, arranging sometimes people to come just sit and visit and talk with our loved one. Right now, that's a little bit more difficult because of COVID, but we can do that sometimes even through just talking and using Zoom if it's not too overwhelming to our loved one in that way, but just providing different avenues for them to have interaction. Our care support system can be a great help with us in that way. So when it comes to resources, like I said, the more we know as caregivers, I mean, the better we are able to just mobilize and give the care that's needed. So we have different agencies here in Dallas, the Senior Source being one, the Dallas Area Agency on Aging, Texas Health and Human Services, and many other organizations out there that are here to give help when needed. So you can call 211, you can tap into those resources, and they can connect you to our organization and others in the community that can be of great assistance. Last but not least, I want to talk about caring for yourself. I like to tell people that taking care of yourself is not selfish, it's a necessity. And self-care is taking inventory daily on your own physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, and then giving yourself permission to replenish yourself in any of those areas that may be deplenished, and you see that you really need just that extra help. So some of the things as caregivers, when we are feeling overwhelmed, we notice that our sleep, our nutrition, our exercise may go by the wayside. So we want, just like we're planning for their care, we want to plan for our own care. Be kind to yourself. Try to get as much sleep as you possibly can. Also exercising, getting out there, doing a little walking when you can, or even I like to do walk away the pounds if you can't get out of the house, or any other exercise thing that's low impact, but something that just kind of keeps you moving can help with those endorphins and helping those feel-good hormones in you as a caregiver, and just give you that extra jolt that you need. Writing in a journal is also something that's helpful. And another thing is having at least one conversation a day with someone outside of the home, whether that's a good friend. I have perfected the art of, during COVID, kind of having little coffee meetups or tea meetups with people via Zoom. And it could just be 10 or 15 minutes where you can have some interaction with someone outside of the home and just have that connection and get that interaction. And oftentimes it also helps us to feel connected and with something outside of what we're doing in the caregiving experience. And that helps us to keep going, supplying that oxygen to us as caregivers. Also here at the Senior Source, at our Caregiver Support Program, we offer support groups, we offer care coordination, supportive counseling, information and referrals, seminars, workshops, much like we're doing today. We also have some durable medical equipment that we give, and supplies, incontinence supplies. And all of these things, guys, that we do them absolutely for free. If you want to ever get in contact with us, you can go to our website at theseniorsource.org and you can contact us there. Also, too, you can contact us at 214-823-5700. The Senior Source has a plethora of different services that we offer outside of the Caregiver Support Program. We have an Elton Financial Safety Center. They help with frauds and scams, also can answer questions about Medicare and Medicaid. We have guardianship, long-term care ombudsman program here. They can go out if they're having issues at nursing homes. You can contact the ombudsman. They can go and be advocates for your loved one in a nursing care facility. We also have volunteer opportunities, even through COVID, through our RSVP program, foster grandparents, and senior companion program.
Kimberly, I'm going to pop up another question if that's all right.
All right.
And there is a question in the meantime. Are the resources you mentioned only available for people in Dallas?
No, they're not available just for people in Dallas. We also operate in Collin County and Rockwall County as well. But even if we aren't in your county and you have a question, you can still call us.
Excited to start this new part of the presentation. Again, if you have general questions, you can put those in the chat. And if you have specific questions for our next presenters, at the end, we'll have a few minutes for that, hopefully. So I'm happy to introduce Stomping Ground. Stomping Ground Comedy Theater is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to educate, entertain, and empower the community, connecting people through comedy, and they won't stop till everybody's laughing. It's an interactive workshop that blends therapeutic techniques and improvisational comedy games to help caregivers cultivate ease, joy, and flexibility in their relationships and feel more hopeful. You'll have fun developing a skill set that helps you communicate in new ways, understand your loved one's changing perspective, diffuse challenging behavior, and cope with the stress of it all. When you learn improv skills for caregiving, you'll worry less, laugh more, and find joy in the everyday with your loved ones. And from Stomping Ground today, we are welcoming Andrea Baum. She's the co-founder and Improv for Life director of Stomping Ground. She's designed and created Improv for Life, a series of therapeutic improv classes and workshops for several unique needs populations. She's a licensed professional counselor and certified positive discipline educator with experience working with children, parents, adults, and people with brain injury, dementia, Alzheimer's, as well as their caregivers. And also joining us is Lindsay Goldap. She's the co-founder and artistic director at Stomping Ground. Her goal for Stomping Ground is to create laughter and community while saving the world with improv comedy. Lindsay holds a BS in acting and directing from Texas A&M University in Commerce and is a graduate of Chicago's Second City Improv Conservatory. So take it away, guys.
Hello, everyone. Okay.
Hi.
So yes, we had a little bit of Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. We had some technical difficulties, but we're all back, or some of us are back. We are so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Loretta and Kimberly. Your presentations were great. So yes, I'm Andrea Baum, and we are from Stomping Ground Comedy Theater. And today we are going to bring you a skill that we teach our Improv for Caregivers workshop that we do in person, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end. So we're going to teach you a really useful skill that I use all the time with my own father who has dementia. And when I started using improv skills in my own caregiving, it was truly life-changing. I was able to have more joyous interactions with my father, but also I had less stress in my life. So we want to bring that to you today, and we're so excited to be here.
Yeah, and it can sound a little bit wild, like comedy and improv and caregiving. How does it all, tie together? And what the truth is that the skills that you learn to do improv comedy are also skills that make a really, really great caregiver. Things like being flexible, trying to step into the world of someone else and be empathetic, saying yes, being in the moment, connecting, listening, responding. All of those skills are also make great comedians, and they make great caregivers.
Yeah, so today we're going to share with you one of our favorite exercises to help caregivers. And for those of you who feel that responsibility and that burden of caregiving, this is a very hard job that you're doing. And it's those moments that we, from moment to moment, sometimes it can be challenging, sometimes it can be easy, but it's those moments when they all compile together that can feel like such a burden. So we are going to give you an exercise that you can use in those moments where you feel like you have to fix or correct or reality check those people in our lives with dementia, our loved ones. So, this, as I said, this can take a real toll on your emotional well-being, and burnout can happen really easily. So we're going to give you an easy communication skill today to help take away some of that mental load and to free you from some of this stress that we're all dealing with on a daily basis. So as we show you this activity today, I want you to keep in mind those moments when the person that you're caring for is fixated on a certain topic. Like maybe it's that they want to drive, or that they want to go home, or maybe it's that it's something that's not even happening in reality, like someone's stealing from them, or there's someone in the house that's not even there. These are these situations that happen time and time again, and they're very draining to us as caregivers because we're constantly having these same conversations and we're getting stressed out too. So I'll let Lindsay start to teach this activity.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rant about something that is a pet peeve to me. We all have these, and I'm going to rant about one that makes me a little nuts. And what y'all are going to do is listen to me, and you are going to try to figure out what I really value when I'm ranting. You don't have to worry about how to fix my problem. You don't have to worry about solutions. You just have to listen and think about what I really care about and what I really value. And when I'm done, we are going to have you give you a specific way to respond to what I care about. So that's all you need to do is listen and hear what I really value and care about. Here we go.
Yeah, and we'll have Kimberly and Katie, we'll have you respond after she's finished.
Okay.
And you're going to think and about what she values. And so your response is, I can hear you really value blank. And those of you who are watching, you can write in the chat what you hear that she values when she's finished. And so, all right, I'm going to let you, okay. This is basically free therapy for Lindsay because she's going to rant about a pet peeve. And I'm going to let you go for 1 whole minute. I'm going to time you. Okay.
I can do it. I believe in myself.
Okay. So let me get my timer up. All right.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
All right, go.
Okay. So something that makes me really, really crazy is when my neighbors and the people who live near me are inconsiderate. You know, they don't take into consideration when their music is up loud, or they're making really loud noises, or maybe they're like having a party and they don't think about like, hey, it's late and I have a child and he's trying to sleep. Or, you know what, at New Year's, when people were setting off fireworks, not only were they setting them off at New Year's, but they were setting them off all day long and into the night. Like it was just a full day long and night long celebration. I really want, oh my gosh. Also, when they like leave trash around the area or around the neighborhood, I find that, that is just so inconsiderate, and it makes me really crazy, and it makes everything look really dirty and the whole area look bad. And I just feel like that is so inconsiderate to me, and they make everybody, they make the whole area look bad, and they're not taking into consideration my life.
All right, you're done. Wow, you kind of I don't know if this is just the Zoom, but you kind of got a little red in the face. You got so frustrated.
Thank you.
I feel like you really needed to get that out.
I did. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, so what, without thinking of like what she's upset about, or what, how we can fix her problem, what does she really value? What did you hear? And I want you to respond, Kimberly and Katie, with, I hear you really value blank. Okay. What did you hear? And those of you at home too, type in the chat what you heard she values.
I hear you really value a peaceful environment.
I do. Thank you. Yes.
I hear you really value your space.
Yes.
I do. Thank you. Yes.
I hear you really value your family.
Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I value rules. Jennifer said that I value rules and people doing what they're. She also says I'm probably the oldest or an only child. I value the rules. I value the rules.
That's one thing I was going to say. I can hear you really value structure.
Yeah, I value structure. Yes.
Maybe the HOA rules even. I also hear that you value your privacy and your quiet time.
Yes.
And your feelings.
Yes. I do value my I have a lot of feelings. Thank you. Yes, and they're important.
Anyone else in the chat want to share what you heard she valued? Consideration and compassion in others.
Yes. Yes. Being considerate and thoughtful. I really value that. I really care about
Okay,
that.
so Lindsay, how does it feel that you got to rant about that and we responded to you in that way? First, I just want to ask you that.
I feel really heard. I
Mhm.
feel like you guys get it. And that makes me feel great that y'all seem to really get me and like what I care about.
Yeah. And for those of you who had to or who shared, Kimberly and Katie, how was that for you to just respond to her in that way?
It made me focus more on what she was saying, not maybe necessarily emotion, but I had to really tune into just the words that she was saying, and I feel like connect in a different way.
Yeah. It makes you listen in a different way. Yeah.
And I think when you listen and communicate this way, it is ultimately really freeing to know that what my job as the listener is not to solve the problem or to correct it, but just to really sort of mirror what it is that I imagine you're feeling.
Yes.
Did anyone feel tempted to give me solutions?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We're all many of us are probably fixers too, who wanna and people pleasers who want to make everybody happy. I just want everyone to be happy.
Yeah, as you know, as caregivers, if you've taken this role on in your family and you're the main, especially if you're the main caregiver, you are probably the fixer, the nurturer, the person that does it all. And so this activity is to encourage you to remind you that you don't have to fix every issue that's coming up in every situation. And our role is not to make sure that the person is at 100% happiness level at all times, right? So they are still going to have a range of emotions and experiences like we all do. And to sit there and to listen and to reflect what the person values, you will connect with them in a different way. And that stress and that burden for you to fix every single problem you won't feel that burden as much. And so when we use this activity, we say to use it with those situations that are those conversations that are just kind of always happening. They're fixated on them. They're kind of, that once they bring it up, your stress level starts to come up. Your frustration level starts to come up because you know exactly how that conversation is going to go. You're going to go in circles. You're going to get angry. They're not going to be maybe being able to, they're not going to take your advice or the reality that you're trying to tell them that is, that is real. So with caregiving and with improv, we say to step into the world of our loved ones. There might be, it's their reality. So we step into that world and see what they're seeing from their perspective and reflect that. So we also encourage you all to say this to so let's say your loved one, example that we always use is with my dad, who has had dementia and a brain injury for quite some time. And he always wants to drive. And we used to get into these really, really bad arguments about it. It was one of our most frustrating conversations. And I knew that when it came up, it would start to just spiral. Lindsay, let's give them an example of what used to happen when I used to talk to my dad, and then using this technique, how it looked later on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
Lindsay is going to pretend like she's my father, and she's going to say that she wants to drive. He was very obsessed with getting his keys back. And of course, his independence was taken from him. That's the most independent thing you can do, is drive a car. So he's very frustrated. But then I was very frustrated when the conversation would come up. So it would go something like this. So Lindsay, be my dad.
Yeah, Andrea, I want to have my keys so that I can drive. I have some places I need to go.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, we've already been over this. You cannot drive. The doctor said that if you drive, you could get into a very bad car accident. And
Oh.
what if you don't know where you're going? You have dementia now, and you could drive somewhere and we would never find you. And if you hit someone, God forbid.
I'm not, first of all, I'm not going to hit someone. I'm very
could.
safe.
We're not talking about
I,
this. We can't talk about this.
I used to be a mathematician. I am very smart.
I
spent
know,
my
but
whole
now,
career in education. I am very.
do you remember when we went to the doctor and they told you could not drive? So I cannot give you your keys. Okay. So this is how the conversation was going before I started using these improv skills. And this might seem very familiar to some of you, and it would get much more heated than that. And much more intense than that. And I would feel my, blood boiling when this conversation would happen. And
especially when you have to have that same one 2 times a day, 5 times a day.
Right. So, so then when I started using this technique, and we encourage you to use it and then kind of stop talking after you've said it, just to hear what else comes out. And then you can keep using this technique. So as much as you want to fix and reality check and give all the reasons why, you're making sure that person is safe for your own mental health, if it goes something like this, you'll see how the stress level in me is not even there. Okay, so Lindsay, act like my dad, and I'm going to use this technique.
Yeah, I want to have my keys, Andrea, so I can drive. I have places to go.
Oh, you really love just being able to get in a car and go somewhere.
Yes, I love it.
Oh, wow.
I love to travel, and I love to just be driving the car. I love the feeling of driving.
Yeah, you've always really valued traveling and going places, and yeah, you really love doing that.
I do. I love to travel. I've been so many places, and I want to go to more places. So I would really like to drive.
Yeah.
Again.
And you love cars too.
I love cars. That's my favorite is the feeling of the car. I love cars.
You like being in control.
Yes, I love to be in control with my hands on the wheel, going where I want to go in the car.
Okay, so the conversation would start going like that instead. So I didn't have this fear after I started using this. When this conversation would come up, I felt like I had control over the conversation in this way where I could just let him be. I could let him feel frustrated too. If he felt frustrated, I could let him feel those feelings. And my goal wasn't to make him feel happy or good. It was just to be there with him to talk about these things. So we can use this in a lot of different scenarios and situations. And just by merely reflecting how they are feeling and what they value. So again, use it on those most difficult conversations and say it, and then try not to do the same thing else and see where it goes. And don't feel that pressure to change a reality check or make them feel a different way. And our last activity that we're going to do is a gratitude exercise. And this exercise, gratitude is so incredibly important. Research shows that gratitude and practicing gratitude can actually change not just our mental health to feel more positive, but our physiological responses within our body. It can change our heart and our blood pressure and the stress within our body. It also helps with sleep. It helps with our compassion for ourselves. As caregivers, we need compassion for ourselves and all that we are doing. So, and
sometimes it can be hard to be grateful when, we're living in the world that we're living in, and you're doing a very difficult job every day, and you're caregiving and you're stressed. So it can be really, really hard to find all the wonderful things in our lives. And it's a practice to try to find them.
Yes, it definitely is a practice, and just finding small things that we are grateful for. And when we feel, when we feel down, when we feel stressed, Something as simple as bringing your focus to the present moment, which is a mindfulness exercise, just bringing your awareness to the present moment, thinking of things that you're grateful for, thinking of 5 things, and also putting a smile on your face while you think of those things. Our brain is really incredible. And if we just fake a smile, our brain thinks, oh, she's happy about something. And we actually create those endorphins and those happy chemicals within our brain. So just putting a slight smile on your face and thinking of things, really wonderful, basic things that we're grateful for, like the weather outside, or that we have the ability to walk outside and exercise, or, like a chocolate bar that we know that we have for later. Those small things can really help. So we have an exercise that we want to play with all of you, and we hope that you can write in the chat your responses, and Kimberly and Katie will have you also do this activity with us, and I'll let Lindsay teach that.
Yeah, so it's really easy. What you're going to do is you are going to think of 3 things that you are going to take on a road trip with you. And they can be actual physical, tangible things that you have with you, like a great book, or they can be intangibles like the weather, or the sound of your grandchild's laughter. They can be really anything that you feel really grateful for and that you actually have on your physical person or intangibly. So I'll start. I'm going to go on a road trip, and I'm going to take 3 things. I'm going to take that first cup of coffee in the morning, just that first sip. That's the best. Whew. I'm going to take my son, and I'm going to take the Encanto soundtrack, movie soundtrack.
Oh my gosh, so good.
Because we have been loving it, and we've been jamming to it in our house. So those are the 3 things I'm going to take on my road trip. Andrea, what are you going to take on your road trip?
Okay, I love that you're taking the Encanto soundtrack. I'm going to go on a road trip, and I'm going to take my phone with all of my music on it so I can listen to all the music that I like and sing to it. I'm going to take my daughters and my husband, so my whole family. And then
so nice of you to take all of them.
Yeah, I'm going to take all of them. And then I'm also going to take like a really good cheeseburger.
Ooh, I love
just
that.
like a drive-through, like from like any drive-through. I just want to eat a burger. That sounds amazing.
Yes.
Kimberly, what are you going to take on your trip?
Oh gosh, I have to mirror you. I'm going to take, I'm going to say my playlist. I don't want to take my phone because I don't want anyone to contact me.
Yeah.
Somehow have a playlist without a phone. I am also going to take good weather. There's, to me, a road trip is best when you have good weather. And I'm going to take, I can think of a third thing. Oh gosh, maybe my best friend, because we always have a good time together.
Yeah, she's gonna take me.
Katie wants
to
go. And those of you in the listening at home or wherever you're listening from, please write in the chat what you're going to take in your trip and what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
All right, Katie.
Well, I am going to take my phone because it's got GPS on it and I might get lost. It also has a really good camera, and I love to take pictures on trips. And if the weather's bad, I can use it to play games. I'm also going to take some really comfortable shoes because I'm going to want to be hiking in the outdoors wherever we are.
I love
it. What else? A white noise machine.
You know what? I'm with you.
Sleeping
I'm
well
with you
at
there, Katie. I don't need to hear all those creatures in the forest or whatever. You know what I love about these is I'm also getting all those great chemicals and endorphins from listening to y'all's gratitudes, because it's very hard to hear somebody talk about something they love and not smile along with them.
Yeah.
So hang on. Adriana said in the chat that she is taking her two best friends, some great wine, and a convertible. Adriana,
Love
I
that.
want to be your friend now.
Someone else said a phone, playlist, and sunny days.
I love it.
Family
Anyone
phone and
else?
Oh, an
snacks.
adult beverage. Ooh, a lot of people are taking their phone and alcohol.
Be careful, okay? Just everyone be
Oh.
careful with that combo.
Mug of tea. Ooh, and a fluffy blanket.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is also a great game to play with your loved ones. So play this with the person that you're caring for. Play this with the kids that are around. This is a great game for young, old, anyone to connect. And you know, anything that anyone says is right. You know, that's what we say in improv, that anything goes. Thank you all so much for having us today. We have a full, oh, I love this, best friends and chocolate.
Rip from Yellowstone. Jennifer, I'm vibing on this very hard. I would take Yellowstone. I'd take the whole show.
We do this workshop in person. We do activities. It's very interactive. We do it at our theater in the Dallas Design District in Stomping Ground. And it's actually free to the public. It's you can make a pay what you want donation for it. It's funded by the Aware Foundation, who's a great foundation that supports caregivers. And so if you want to find out more, we have one next Tuesday. And we have them the last Tuesday of every month at 12:30 in the afternoon at lunchtime, and we hope that we see some of you there. It's very fun and interactive, so thank you so much. And I think now we have a Q&A, is that correct?
We do. I did put your link in the chat, so everyone grab
thank you.
that so you can stay in touch.
Thank you.
And if you do have specific questions for Andrea or Lindsay, please put those in the chat for us.
Yeah.
This was fun and really helpful.
Oh
Yeah, and we build on this in our class, and do a lot of these activities where it's fun and we're laughing and we're smiling, but they also really help teach those soft skills and those skills that make you a great caregiver. So it's really interactive and it's really fun, and we just spend the whole time laughing. So it's a great like stress reliever.
Yeah.
We talk about a lot of difficult situations that caregivers go through, and we figure out creative ways to just diffuse some of these difficult situations and to feel better. It's, you know, these are great techniques for the person that we're caring for them to have an easier time, but it's also great for caregivers, you know, so we have less stress and more joy, which we all need so much.
I guess everyone's just thinking about chocolate and adult beverages.
No,
No questions.
Thinking about those road trips they want to take.
Really.
now I need to find out who Rip from Yellowstone is.
Oh, I already know, hon. Don't even. Okay. I'm just glad. I'm glad someone else is vibing with me on that show.
I think there are a lot of people who are. I keep hearing about it. Look at the chat. There's someone put their cowboy hat on.
Is that Rip?
That's Rip. That's it's an emoji form of Rip.
All right, well, looks like we're going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much, Stomping Ground and Andrea and Lindsay. We really had fun with this, and it really was nice to end on a fun, humorous, light note. And thank you, everyone who joined. We did record today, so we will be sending out the link to the recording since we did have a little bit of interruption there. When the meeting ends, there will be automatically a window that pops up with a survey. If you don't mind, please taking just a minute or two to fill that out so we can better plan on our upcoming training sessions and improve on it. So thank you so much. Kimberly, anything else?
Yes, I would also just say this has been an absolute wonderful day. Thank you all to all the presenters who joined us today. Also, too, if you have any questions or need any assistance, please reach out to the Senior Source here in Dallas. We are here to help you answer any questions, point you in the right direction, and just be that given support. We have support groups, like I said, information referrals, workshops, and other classes, and we look forward to hearing from you. You can reach us at theseniorsource.org. You can also call us at 214-823-5700. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. I did add a link if you want to grab it to everything that we covered today, all the slides and everything. So, all right, thanks. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.